How does the hesitancy of vaccination, the issues with AstraZeneca, et cetera, play into your short and medium-term view of Ryanair?
Yeah, I mean, short term, it's a negative. I mean, we need to have the vaccination rates higher, add confidence to reopen. The short term is the thing that's dominating the discussion. My view is very much focused on what happens after that. What happens into 2022? Is there an opportunity there?
You got a price target of 20. 1672 is where we are today, Adrian. What gets us to 20?
Yeah, earnings momentum and a recovery in margins to levels that Ryanair hasn't seen since their fiscal 19. And you get that by having a better cost base, having their cost base fall faster than their peers. And you get that by eventually and very quickly potentially getting pricing power next summer. I think this summer, it's very uncertain. Where will the demand be? There's a lot of overlap, a lot of competition for the travelers that are going to be there. But if a lot of capacity exits, as Michael has talked about, we would agree. You might see a lot less short-haul capacity next summer.
What about the other guys, like a Wizz Air, EasyJet? Where do they fall in this?
Yeah, I mean, I think Wizz is pretty similar in a sense. You've got a very low cost base, very similar cost base, really, when you cut through the different types of aircraft that they operate. Very low cost base, and importantly, a very solid balance sheet, similar to EasyJet too, although they don't have a lot of embedded growth within their order book. I mean, they're effectively going to be 10% smaller in terms of their fleet over the next few months than they were last year. But effectively, you want to have a solid balance sheet, not have the overhang of a lot of debt and a lot of interest charges. That's going to be a real problem for a lot of airlines. And I'm not just talking about the large airline groups like a Lufthansa, Air France, but I'm talking about a lot of smaller ones that are going to struggle to see the other side of this. We're talking about even the likes of SAS, of very small regional carriers that have had some temporary assistance from either state aid or furlough schemes.
Michael placed a big order for the MAX a little while ago, and we're now seeing, it's interesting, Southwest starting to place bigger orders as well. Ryanair's got its own variant. In terms of the way that the arrival of the MAX into the fleet, and Michael's talked about the fact that he'll idle older, current sort of engine option aircraft if he needs to. How big an impact are those MAXs going to have when demand does come back?
Yeah, I mean, Ryanair brands it the game changer. I suppose that's a little bit of marketing, but I think there is truth to it. I mean, the unit costs the savings are undeniable. I mean, we see it across the industry. The global industry is sort of parking the older, less efficient aircraft, and they're operating the lower operating cost aircrafts. And it's hard to argue that, particularly when, if you're a Southwest or a Ryanair, you have very strong pricing as a starting point, but then you get concessions from Boeing, of course, because of the long delivery delays. And upsizing the order, of course, should get you better economics on the aircraft price. So I think it's a huge tailwind for them, from a unit cost perspective, but also from a return on capital perspective for the next 3-4 years. I think it's going to be very powerful.
Adrian, when you get off the Ryanair flights, my question to you is, what are you going to find in a year's time? If we have another difficult summer, I'm just wondering how much capacity, hotel capacity and everything else is going to get taken out of this industry, and how big a problem that is going to be. If the industry does shrink, how does that affect the airlines? EasyJet has a kind of all-in approach. Ryanair doesn't. I'm wondering kind of which model is going to work better.
Yeah, so it's an all-in approach in terms of, hotels and travel. I guess the question is, does the whole ecosystem shrink along with the airlines? I mean, typically, the capacity on the airline side is a little bit more flexible. You can't move that hotel to another region of the world. You can't put that Greek hotel or that hotel in southern Spain, you can't move that into South America or into Asia. You can do that with aircraft. So, I think the best approach for these airlines is to be an airline. It doesn't mean you can't get a little bit more, a little bit higher returns if you're an EasyJet. Take advantage of some of those opportunities for the package. All the airlines are doing it, but I think the core of these airlines is going to continue to be a good operator and keep unit costs as low as possible and keep a healthy balance sheet. That's how you win.
Quickly, do we feel like the cash issuance, the balance sheets can make it? Are we going to see any more dilution?
Yeah, I think for the most part, we're speaking mostly about Ryanair and Wizz. I think they have very high cash balances. The cash burn rates are really falling away and likely to fall away into the summer. But I think you could see some new equity issuance from the smaller guys. Possibly again at some point from IAG, although they have a very high liquidity level. That's the BA owner. And potentially even from EasyJet at some point to relieve the balance sheet a little bit. So I could see more equity issuance, but not from a Ryanair or Wizz. I think they can make it through without that.